Fantastic. Hey everyone, welcome to That Pedal Show. Dan here.
Mick here. Beaming smiles all around as this is new territory for us. And before we get into Rickenbackers and Jaguars and all that fun stuff, please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. It's free. You don't have to do anything else but hit the button. It helps us out and we massively appreciate it.
Yeah, perfect. And also head over to thatpedalshowstore.com and check out the merch. Loads of stuff at the store. It's really cool.
We are self-funded here. We fund ourselves by selling merch, so please buy something if you feel so inclined.
Yes,
right,
indeed.
Sales messages over. We're doing this video because we went to see, I think we can say, a new friend.
A new mate, a new pal, a new cobber, Mr. Johnny Marr.
Yes, we did a show recently with Johnny Marr, and I think most people watching this video will probably have seen it. We had a lovely day with Johnny. He's a super guy. And inspired us into directions that we hadn't really been in before. Direction number one, Fender Jaguar. We did have a Jag before this, but Dan played the Johnny version, really liked it, so we traded our old Jag for this one.
Yep, and I'm in deep smit. Is that what you say? Yeah, I'm in love with this thing. It's beautiful.
It's really cool. And secondly, there was a Rickenbacker there that day, and Johnny played his 330, Rickenbacker 330 black, very similar to this. And we're both just like, wow, those are tonal roads we haven't been down before.
Yeah.
And I want to say massive thanks to Kember for lending us this 330. He's a TPS viewer. He emailed in and said, look, if you want to borrow a 330, I've got one sat there not doing anything. Why don't you borrow it?
Yeah.
So
but I will say, Mark,
we're grateful.
When you're rolling paint on the wall, take the guitar out of the room when you do that.
There are a few flecks on it. But so this is new territory for me and Dan. Neither of us have spent a huge... Dan's been playing the Jag for a few weeks now, to be fair. Neither of us have ever owned a Rickenbacker.
No.
We have done a show with Dave Gregory.
You have.
And the show is called something like Does It Have to Jangle? Because the first part of the show is going to be about exploring some of those jangle tones. Jangle Reinhardt Steinhardt.
Very good.
And Mix the Bojangles.
Mix the Bojangles.
How do we feel about that?
That was very good.
So I spent ages thinking about that. And in so doing, take a little walk through some classic compressor types and some couple of new things we haven't tried before, some delay, and of course, some chorus, because we associate that sound with a bit of chorus. But then try not to get too bogged down into cliches. We will explore a bit of it and then go, but hang on, do these guitars rock? Do you have to jangle?
Yeah.
Can we change it up so that we make some rock?
Indeed, indeed.
Let's see how we get on.
So one of the things that I've noticed about these guitars and the jangly thing.
Did you notice anything about the pedal board?
There's a massive, massive thing on there.
Big thanks to Jam Pedals who've sent us their pink flow. It's as close to multi-effects as I ever want to get.
It's so beautiful.
Anyway, sorry, Mike,
yeah.
you were saying.
One of the things that I've found about these guitars, and I've always assumed that a guitar should sustain naturally for a very long time, and that makes a great guitar. In fact, a lot of the jangly guitars just don't do that. They go plink, and they don't have that Les Paul sustain. But that's part of the magic, especially when you're arpeggiating chords and that sort of stuff. The notes just sort of pop out. It makes it easier for the notes not to bleed into each other.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
It's. I know we have a Jazz Master as well, which we did a video on ages ago. Neither of us have really bonded with in the way that Dan has bonded with that. Same story, very different kind of sustain characteristic. Anyway, maybe that's for another day. Let's start off then and talk about the classic Jangle recipe. What do we mean by that? So maybe it started in the 60s. We want to talk about the Beatles, perhaps, the Byrds, obviously, and then forward from there into that 80s kind of classic chorus sound that we know. If you want to know more about that, Google it. I don't think this isn't a slavish how to sound like John Lennon or how to sound like Johnny Marr. It's not about that. It's about what are the elements.
Yeah.
And as such, we've got a 1961 AC30 and a Fender Super Reverb running together. I'm just going to turn the vibrato off. Tremolo.
I wonder what the settings are.
In the Super. So where do we begin then?
Well, let's hear the guitars
Yeah.
with nothing else, just through the amps.
Here you go then. Guitar, 2 amps.
Right. Bridge pickup.
Super interesting straight off the bat. That guitar feels twice as loud.
Yeah, I mean, I've spent a bit of time with this guitar and I had to bring the pickups up.
Okay. You like that in guitars, don't you?
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I like them far away.
Right.
Make the amps do the work. But
Yeah.
you like the guitar.
I do.
Yeah. To do the most. Sorry, just turn the reverb down a little bit. Yeah, so first thing, that's way janglier than this. Straight
Well,
out
this
the
has got
bat.
more top end in it, but that's more acoustic.
Yeah.
You can hear the hollow body.
Yeah.
You can hear the bottom end in it and the shimmer up the top. So one of the things that Johnny said about these guitars, he knew that the guys who played those guitars played lots of chords. And you can hear for the like strumming stuff, it's just...
It is acoustically. I mean, you don't know if you'll pick this up through the voice mics. We don't do anything compression wise or anything else to the guitar amplifier mics and the room mics, which are up there. We do. There's some microphones above our heads which capture our voices. We do add compression and stuff to those and gain makeup, so it's not true. Anyway. Yeah.
So this is all mids and bottom end, mids and top end. The bottom end and that, the acoustic
You are
quality.
hearing the acoustic nature of
absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
Also, you're hearing a lot of metal on that guitar,
Yes.
I think. This one too. It's all part of the resonance.
There you go.
All right, let's get into some what we might do compressor-wise then.
We've got the Coca from Okko Pedals, which is an optical compressor.
Yeah.
The Union Tube and Transistor, which is the 1176 type thing.
LA2A.
LA2A.
Yeah.
And then we've got the Ross and the Dynassor. And these are based off Dynacomp things, which is what we call an OTA style compressor, operational transconductance amplifier.
Which we know from Dynacomp. So that's actually in this part of the
Exactly.
pink flow, just so you know. So when that's on, even though that's a different logo, this is the Dynassor here.
Yep.
And the Ross compressor, super famous because it begat the Keeley 2-knob.
Indeed. Thus begat the Keeley 2-knob. Very good.
Let's have a listen to some of these different compressor types then and see what we can hear. Let's start on familiar ground. So this is going to be, in your mind, this is as good a Dynacomp as you're going to hear.
It is. I've got my favourite original Dynacomp, and this is as good, if not better, than my original. I think that this is the best Dynacomp type clone, if we can say that.
Yeah.
It's just magic.
That you've heard, okay. And it looks like that in real life, if it's not included in this piece of art. Cool. Groovy. So I'll switch it on partway through then. Just let me hear what happens. So we're getting a relatively slow grab because you hear that
Yeah.
straight away. Both accentuate high frequencies
Yes.
in a big way,
Yep.
but not completely dissimilar in feel.
No, they're very similar. They're very similar circuits. Interestingly enough, the RAWK compressor also gives you the option to add in a bright switch.
Because that's what we need.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So yeah, certainly not for these guitars, but something, a
Yeah.
dark Les Paul or something like that.
Or if you've got a really dull amp.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to the Union. Good show from all of them, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, for these style of compressors, these are really, really good ones.
Yeah, yeah. So the Coca is what you say, an optical compressor. Similar sort of thing. So you on all of the ones we've looked at, they've got essentially a knob for the amount of compression and a knob for the output.
Mm-hmm.
So set low, you can actually use them as quite nice boosts as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
This one
totally.
does a particularly good job of that. I'll just give you a quick show of that in a minute. I'll try not to play quite so many G chords because otherwise it's going to be a G chord thing, isn't it? I will just say this guitar is almost impossibly difficult to play because of the narrow fingerboard.
Very narrow fingerboard and a thick neck.
Yeah, I quite like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Bit
but
broom
that,
handling,
yeah.
maybe. But so apologies, I'm getting used to it and flipping love the sound of it. It's just quite hard to play. No G's.
So you can hear the similarity in the design of the Ross and the Dynassor, the OTA thing.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah, really, really cool. And I suppose if you were looking for a compressor, obviously there are many different types. If you like that, what I love about the Lab, it is, full disclosure, my favourite guitar pedal compressor.
Sure.
Because it doesn't do the Dynacomp thing.
Right.
And it does do that most amazing, sorry, I'm burping with tone. From like post-production studio type work, you kind of get used to some of the sounds of those classic
Right.
studio compressors, and
Yep.
to me it has more in common with that than
Sure.
with a pedal compressor. And the Coca seems to sit somewhere in between, does a nice push, does a nice boost,
Yeah.
and the compression's cool too.
Yeah. Yeah, so you've got those type of compressors. The other compressor we haven't mentioned is the VCA, the voltage controlled amplifier. You could technically say that these are all VCAs.
Yeah.
But so the Boss CS3 is a classic VCA thing. They're very clean. They're very fast.
Which is probably must be almost the most popular compressor in the world.
Yeah,
because they've
certainly up
sold
there.
so many of
Yeah,
them. What
yeah.
did Johnny use? Do we know back in the day?
Oh, I don't know. I think he had a pedal board full of Boss things.
Yeah.
It might have been a CS2.
Could have been a CS2, or it could have been studio compression, because that's the other thing to bear in mind. By the time everything's mic'd up and has gone through mic pre's and post production and all of that, a lot of that compression effect is happening in the recording process.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And obviously we don't have a Roland JC120 today either, because we don't own one.
No, we've got a faux JC120
Do we?
C2.
Ah, what a great link, Daniel. It's almost like it's time to move on to chorus. So yeah, we would associate a lot of those 80s kind of jangle sounds
with chorus
in a big way. So three choruses on the board today, which are...
We've got the CU2 Wazza, which is the Wazacraft version of the CU2, which includes a very nice CU1 mode in there, which is lovely.
Interesting, because on the outputs it splits it wet-dry. So one side will be vibrato only, the other side will be dry, and you'll hear that in a sec. TC SCF.
Mm-hmm. Now this is interesting because the stereo is different. Like when we think of the wet-dry thing with the Boss, where you get vibrato on one side and the direct sound on the other. With the TC, and it's also true of a number of different things like the Arian SCH.
Oh wow,
chorus.
with the old Arian.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, you could only buy, in our local town, you could only buy Boss or Arian. That was it. There was nothing else.
And what that does is you get modulation and direct on both sides, but one of the sides, it flips the phase of the modulation, and it just gives you this widened
So we're
thing.
stepping towards the dimension type effect.
It's similar. What this does is actually flip the phase of the audio. What the Dimension C does is it flips the phase of the LFO.
Yeah.
So the Dimension is this is kind of I'm not going to say a cheats way, but it's much more, shall we say, financially affordable way of doing it.
I guess I kind of meant sonically, as you'll hear. We'll get into it now. So you'll hear
it gets it's a big spacious thing. You're getting modulation on both sides.
Yeah, and it almost becomes more sheeny and smooth.
Yeah,
whereas the C2
very
is
sheeny,
very thick and fat.
Absolutely.
So let's hear it. We'll hear it without chorus, without compression to begin with. Go for it, Dan. the last one you heard is in the Pink Flow. It's Jam's Waterfall chorus, which is a kind of based on the C2 and then a bit of other stuff.
Yeah.
A refined version of it.
Yeah, but you hear the difference. If we go back to the...
Okay, I'll play.
Yes. Very nice.
Sorry, it's a major seventh chord, which is also difficult because it's very hard.
Indeed. So I'll just really show you that sonically the difference between the Boss type and the TC electronic. So if we play the Boss and just play a chord. So that's no modulation on that side.
Can you just let the modulation go in a full few swings so
Sure.
people can hear?
Yeah, yeah.
This is what's happening in one of the amps, right? It's really hard because the fingerboard is so narrow.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
just get used to it. Get used to it.
So what's happening in the CE2? It's exactly the same thing that happens in the jazz chorus.
Yeah.
You get modulation out of one speaker and direct out of the other. But if we hear the TC and do the same thing. So you get a mix and one side with the modulation on one side being out of phase. So that's what gives it that massive wet thing. But the wet, dry thing and the C2 is like, you know, a different sort of chorus.
What's your favourite?
I mean, I love the C2.
Yeah, for that analog.
Well,
They're all analog, but
yeah, that movement. But the TC definitely, there's that width it gets. I struggle a little bit with the out of phase thing sometimes.
yeah.
But it just, I mean, it's got a sound and it's, you know, it's absolutely massive. The way that splits the signal is really cool. And it's something that players like Eric Johnson, Joe Bonamassa use just as a splitter.
Yeah, Bonamassa used to, I don't know if he still does, used to use it to split his amps behind when he was doing the tweeds.
Yeah. So it's a groovy thing.
Okay, let's before we move on then, why don't you pick a compressor and a chorus and something else and get a sound up that you like. We've also got Tremolo in the Super Reverb. We can't seem to get it to work in the AC30, not quite sure why. So Tremolo is also, you might argue, a key component of this
Sure.
soup.
Okay, well, I'm going to choose the RAWK compressor.
Okay.
And then I'm going to choose C2. And I'm going to choose the DD3, but I'm also going to go into the analog in the Pink Flow.
So running two
delays.
Two delays.
And you get this? is ace.
You heard it here. That's as good a jangle sound as I have ever heard.
Isn't that great? That's
That is
magic.
really ace. Okay, I can't top that, but instead I'll go with the Union because we know I like it. I'll go with the Delay Llama in here.
Mm-hmm.
I might just have a little bit more of that, a little bit more of that, a little bit more of that. I'll just see what I've got there in a minute.
The thing I love, even with all that on, there's no mistaking what that is.
Yeah.
It's the sound of that guitar just slices through everything. It's amazing.
Also, an interesting reminder that compared to the two guitars now, all right, it is a Johnny Marr Jaguar, but it's not a million miles from a normal Jag. Certainly on the bridge pickup, anyway. This guitar sounded considerably duller, or
It's fatter.
yeah,
And it's got a sheen up the top, but it's got all that acoustic bottom end to it.
I think the nature of the compressor brought out more of that kind of what you would expect.
Right.
Okay, so there's a whistle-stop tour of at least as much as Dan and I understand about Jangle guitar sounds, and it's a terribly reductive term. Please don't be annoyed by it, but that basic combination of a classic guitar, Jangle guitar. I don't want to. Anyway, a classic
Mix
Jangle
the
guitar.
Bojangle.
Yeah, mix
Yep.
the Bojangle
Yep.
and Jangle Steinhardt Reinhardt with compression, with chorus, and a couple of amps.
Yeah.
I think it's time to see what we can do when we up the ante a bit.
Indeed. There are many, many things very interesting about that. First of all, that
Hey?
guitar is a...
I can't. Well, why didn't the Seagull work? That was very disappointing.
I don't know. There's something...
It worked earlier.
Did it?
Yeah,
I don't know. Too much rock?
maybe.
Do you need to have your tone? Is it the...
Just straight user error as normal. Well, that was exciting, Daniel.
It was very
And
exciting.
enlivening.
Yeah.
I don't know what there was to draw from that other than 1973 Hiwatt DR103, pretty cranked. Everything at 2 o'clock as far as volumes are concerned. 1969 Laney Supergroup, pretty cranked. Be interesting to see what the microphones heard and how much we clipped them, but yeah, I guess sandwiched between the 60s and the 80s was the 70s,
Thank you very much.
where large rock happened.
Indeed. So what's really interesting about these guitars, we were talking before about the jangly thing not having that much sustain. I actually think, because I would have thought that guitar would have howled like a banshee.
It was great.
It was perfect.
We did rather go to extremes
yeah,
there.
and it's a riff monster.
And I would think back from there would be somewhere back from there would be a nice place to be. Yeah, I mean, I don't quite know what was happening with the bass coupling because I had my earphones in, but
Sure,
earplugs.
riff, an absolute riff machine.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you tuned it down, again, perhaps the clarity of the single coils.
Yeah,
And without having that humbucker mud that
Yeah,
can happen with some
sure.
humbuckers, gives you the clarity again.
I mean, it does. We do need to mention that, you know, we've had been on the bridge pickup
Yeah,
for the whole thing.
There's been no explorations into other pickups, for
No.
which we apologise. But
That is the sound of the jangle.
yeah,
It's the- you know.
I kind of don't want to go anywhere else, to be honest. But
Yeah, me either.
yeah.
and
Some of the
these are all
in-between
great.
sounds are quite nice.
Yeah, but for the I love the bridge pickup on this thing.
What I'll do just to
Magic.
finish off is turn the amps down so they're not overdriving, and we will just hear a little bit of other pickup selections just for a minute.
Okay.
Just because I think it would be wrong to not do that. And we'll sort of see if we can go back to well, let's go somewhere between and see what we can find.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll turn the amps down so they're not overdriving quite so much. And let's see what we can discover. Okay, I've turned that one. Basically, doesn't do clean.
No.
It is overdriving a bit. The Hiwatt is brutal.
Come on.
Yeah, it's quite brutal. Let's hear some other pickup selections,
Okay.
just for the halibut, Dan.
Okay.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I mean, they're great sounds. I just can't get away from the bridge pickup on this guitar. It's just magical.
Back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is all about the bridge pickup for me.
Yeah, me too.
I've trying to figure out what this does. It's a blend, I think.
Okay.
Anyway, you'll know what it does. I prefer it wherever it sounds most trebly.
Beautiful.
There's some all right sounds in the middle. The neck pickup, didn't love it.
Sure.
But then, you know, those of you that love Ricky's will understand that a bit more and have spent more time doing it.
Yeah.
Well, we've added that. I totally think we should have a Rickenbacker.
I agree.
I can't wait to record music with it.
No. I follow Susanna Hoffs
on
Instagram.
And why wouldn't you?
And she's amazing, right? But she does a lot of stuff with her Ricky. And there's this video of her showing like all the clips of her in the 80s in her Rickenbacker. And it's that sound. Everything from the Bangles to all the guys you mentioned in the 60s, and of course you've got
Peter Buck, REM, Pete Townsend, Counting Crows. I mean, they are everywhere, aren't they?
Indeed.
How the hell does this work?
Like a Chinese finger trap.
Yeah. They're everywhere, aren't they? They are everywhere. And the more you hear them, the more you can't unhear them.
I've just realised that that's an amazing capo.
That's probably a bit
great.
too high. I do this in an acoustic set.
Do you?
Yeah. Actually, that's one thing we need to hear just before we go home. Capo, of course, capo.
Of course, yeah.
Sorry for the extended play. We might have to cut around that a little bit while I figured out what the hell was going on here.
No other guitar that we have makes a noise anything like that.
Yeah. And the blend
cool.
at that point actually did come in really useful.
Right.
So I finally figured out that I didn't have the neck pickup turned up.
Right.
And just blending in, or I presume that's what it does, I don't know.
Yeah.
It just softened it off a bit and gave it a bit more hollow character. But yeah, capo on a Ricky, man.
Yeah. Yeah, well, those are Tom Petty stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
It is the sound of ages. I do think we need to add a Ricky to our arsenal.
We do. It's been a revelation. And, you know, I will fully admit to being a little bit rude about Rickies down the years through pure ignorance, really, just through not really understanding and not understanding what fantastic rock guitars they are.
Yeah.
You don't have to jangle, even though when you do, it sounds totally magic.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man.
This has been awesome.
It's our new direction.
Hope you like it.
Yeah, and I think I only managed to play a tiny bit of blues in the whole video.
Yeah, and we only did Mr. Tambourine Man just hinted at it, I think. I think it was pretty good.
Which, of course, is a 12-string, whole other game.
There we go. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed that. That was so much fun.
Yeah. Let's get a Ricky.
Let's get a Ricky. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Thanks to anyone that's gone to thatpedalshowstore.com and grabbed some merch. We've got some new t-shirts in the store. We do. Which is awesome.
Some hoodies are incoming. The Christmas tee.
Christmas tee is spectacular this year.
It is. There are two options. Hopefully it will be in by the time this goes out. So get ye festived to the max on ye old humbug day.
Very good. Ye old humbug day. Very good. Massive thank you to our preferred retailers. Details below. And of course, massive thank you to our patrons on Patreon. Thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Have a fantastic day and we'll see you very soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
When your day is long.